The snow hit my windshield like static on an old TV screen, endless white noise for the thoughts in my head. 3 years, 3 Christmases away. I'd finally saved enough to fly home, finally bought gifts, finally had something to bring to the table again. Mom had sounded happy on the phone. "Everyone's so excited to see you," she'd said, her voice sugary and tired. I believed her. I even wore that red sweater she gave me senior year, the one with the tiny tear near the sleeve that she always promised to fix. When I pulled into the driveway, the house looked smaller. The lights blinked too fast. Through the window I saw people I didn't recognize. Laughter, glasses clinking, someone's arm around my mother's shoulder. I hesitated, checked the address, then rang the bell. Mom opened the door with a practiced smile, the kind you give a neighbor dropping off cookies. "Oh, you made it early," she said, glancing behind her as if searching for approval. Inside, the table was set for 6. My seat, end of the left side, had a stranger's name card. "Oh, honey," Mom said when I noticed, "this year it's just immediate family." She smiled as she served my sister's fiancé the spot that used to be mine. I stood there holding my gift bag, realizing exactly where I stood in this family. The scent of cinnamon candles couldn't cover the truth. I was a guest in my own home. Mom buzzed around the kitchen, too busy to look me in the eye. Dad sat by the fireplace nodding at sports highlights like nothing was off, and my sister, Claire, clung to her fiancé like a prize she couldn't stop showing off. "Did you get taller?" she joked, though her tone was sharp enough to cut glass. Or maybe I just forgot. It stung more than I wanted to admit. The last time we'd all been together was before Dad's layoff. I'd picked up double shifts at the auto shop to help them keep the mortgage paid. No one asked me to. I just couldn't stand seeing Mom cry. But when the house was safe, they thanked Claire for her moral support. That pattern never stopped. Now she laughed, telling stories about her fiancé's promotion. Mom's face glowed with pride. I waited for someone to ask about my work, the new shop I helped open, but the silence was louder than the Christmas playlist humming from the old stereo. Dinner started, and Dad motioned to the empty corner. "We grabbed an extra chair for you, son. Sorry, ran out of room." The folding chair creaked as I sat. Every bite felt like chewing regret. I kept smiling, nodding at stories I wasn't in. When dessert came, Claire's fiancé lifted a glass. "To family," he said, smug, his hand resting on my sister's arm. Everyone toasted. Mom looked at me finally. "You understand, right?" she whispered as if explaining to a child. "We've just grown so close lately. Things are different now." I forced a laugh. "Yeah, I noticed." Later that night, I carried my bags upstairs. My old room gone, boxes labeled holiday storage filled the space. My posters were torn down, the bed replaced by plastic bins. In the hallway mirror, I caught my own reflection. Older, tired, forgotten. That's when it hit me. I hadn't just lost my seat at the table, I'd lost my place in the story. I woke up to the sound of laughter downstairs, the kind that used to belong to me. For a second, I thought it was a dream. Then I saw the faint light under the door, and the shape of boxes stacked around me like walls. I'd slept on a blanket on the floor, between tinsel and old photo albums. My back ached, but the ache inside ran deeper. I checked my phone, no messages, not even a good morning from anyone in the house. When I finally stepped into the kitchen, Mom was already plating breakfast. Pancakes, eggs, everything I used to beg for as a kid. But when she saw me, her smile faltered, just for a moment, before she turned it back on. "Oh, you're up. We didn't want to wake you. You looked peaceful." Peaceful, sure. Claire and her fiancé sat at the table, halfway through their plates. Mine wasn't set. Mom noticed my glance. "Oh, sweetie, we didn't know if you were hungry. There's cereal in the pantry." The same pantry where my name had once been written on Christmas stockings, right under Dad and Mom. I poured cereal in silence, listening to them plan the day. Carol service, engagement photos by the tree, a drive to the cabin for family pictures. Each sentence cut like paper, small, harmless on the surface, but together they drew blood. After breakfast, I wandered the house. The smell of pine and gingerbread clung to every wall, every memory. But something was missing. No photo of me anywhere. The hallway frames, once full of our vacations and birthdays, now skipped over entire years. In one frame there was a Christmas photo, Mom, Dad, Claire, her fiancé. The same spot where my 2019 graduation picture used to hang. I blinked. Maybe it fell, maybe it broke, but deep down I knew better. Then I found the living room shelf. A silver photo album lay open, freshly added pages, the family milestones Claire must have put together. I flipped through. Birthdays, baby showers, engagement parties, dinners. I kept flipping until I reached the back cover, where one photo stuck out like an afterthought. Me, aged 15, standing awkwardly in the corner, written in pen underneath. Summer, before college. That was the last page. I sat back, holding the album like a stranger reading someone else's story. Later, while helping Mum in the kitchen, or trying to, I asked, "When did you redo the hallway? Looks different." "Oh, that was Claire's idea," she said lightly. "We thought it'd be nice to refresh things." "Right. I noticed some of the old photos are gone." She paused mid-stir. "They were outdated, honey. No one wants to look at the awkward teenage years." Her tone was casual, but the truth beneath it was sharp. No one wants to look at you. That night I stepped out to the porch for air. The snow had stopped, leaving the world wrapped in cold silence. I could hear faint music from inside. Claire's playlist, all bright and modern, nothing from our childhood. That's when I heard it. Voices through the slightly open kitchen window. Mom and Claire. "I know it's awkward," Mom whispered. "But you understand, right? He's different now. We've moved on." "Yeah, exactly," Claire said. "He's just too stuck. Same old job, same old stories. It's embarrassing sometimes. Jason's family keeps asking what he does, and I never know what to say." They laughed softly, like sharing a secret too trivial to hide. I froze, every word pressed down like frostbite. Embarrassing. Different. Not worth mentioning. For years I'd thought I was building something, that every overtime shift, every holiday I skipped, was a sacrifice that meant something. I helped pay the mortgage. I sent money when Dad's back surgery wasn't covered. I missed birthdays so they could keep that roof. And now I was the stain they wanted to scrub out of the family portrait. When I walked back in, Mom was setting up the dessert tray, pretending nothing had been said. "We're heading to the cabin tomorrow," she said. "You don't mind, right? Just family time before the wedding." I smiled. "Just immediate family?" She hesitated. "You know what I mean." "I do," I said quietly. "More than you think." She didn't answer. That night, I sat by the tree watching the lights blink, red, green, gold, red again. Each flicker lit up the memories I'd tried so hard to protect. Dad teaching me to ride my first bike, Mom cheering at my high school play, Claire falling asleep on my shoulder after watching Christmas movies. They weren't bad people, just people who'd forgotten what it meant to belong to someone, to owe love even when it's inconvenient. When I finally stood up, I made a quiet promise, not to fight, not to beg for space at their table again. I'd leave in peace, but not before reminding them what peace cost me. For the first time that night, I didn't feel small, I felt awake. The next morning, while everyone slept, I found an old family photo tucked inside a drawer, all of us together, messy and imperfect. I took it out, brushed the dust off, and set it in the center of the dining table. Underneath, I left a small note. Not angry, not pleading, just honest. It read, "If you ever wonder why the house feels colder, check which chair is empty." Then I zipped my bag, looked at the glowing tree one last time, and quietly stepped into the snow. The drive back from the cabin felt longer than it should have. The sky was gray, the kind of gray that made everything else fade. The trees, the roads, even my thoughts. No one spoke much. The silence between my mom and me sat heavy, like a passenger no one wanted to claim. Dad hummed under his breath, pretending not to notice. Claire and her fiancé whispered in the back seat, wrapped in their own little world. By the time we pulled into the driveway, I already knew what I had to do. I wasn't going to shout or accuse, I wasn't going to cry. I was going to show them what they'd become. That night, Mum suggested one last dinner before everyone left for their plans. She said it softly, like offering a favor she didn't owe. I agreed, not because I wanted it, but because endings deserve witnesses. I cooked most of the meal myself, the same recipes Mum used to teach me: rosemary chicken, mashed potatoes, a simple apple crumble for dessert. She hovered behind me, trying to give directions, but I could tell she didn't remember half the steps anymore. "So you've gotten good at this," she said finally, almost surprised. I've had time to practice, I replied. When the food hit the table, the air shifted. Claire's fiancé joked about how this could have been your calling. I smiled politely. Maybe it was. Feeding people who forget who filled their plates. The room went quiet for a beat too long. Dad cleared his throat, trying to smooth things over. You know your mother's proud of you, we all are. Are you? I asked calmly. Because I haven't heard that in a while, not since before Claire's engagement at least. Claire rolled her eyes. Oh, come on, not this again, it's Christmas. Let's not make it about... About what? I interrupted. About how I'm here but not really here, how my seat was given away like it never mattered. Her fiancé shifted uncomfortably. Look, man, it's not personal. Families change. Families evolve, I said. They don't erase. Mom sighed, resting her hands on the table. You're overreacting, sweetheart. You've been gone for years. Things move on, people move on. It's natural. Natural? I echoed. Like replacing photos, forgetting calls, or pretending I'm not part of this house? I wasn't angry, not anymore, just tired. Dad finally spoke, his voice careful. You know, son, we're just trying to make everyone comfortable. There's no need to dig up the past. The past is all I have left, I said softly. You've rewritten the present without me. Claire pushed her chair back, crossing her arms. You're making everyone uncomfortable. This is supposed to be happy. Why do you always make it about your feelings? Because I'm the only one who still feels, I said. She scoffed, but her fiancé avoided my eyes. Even he knew something was off. Then Mom, in her usual calm tone, said, You need to understand, honey. Your sister's building her future. You had your time here. My time, I asked. Mom, this isn't a job, this is home. She hesitated, and for a brief moment I saw it, guilt flickering behind her eyes. But it was gone as quickly as it came. I just don't want tension, she said quietly. I leaned back, exhaling slowly. Then maybe you should have saved a seat for peace when you set the table. Silence again. The kind that doesn't end with words. It ends with truth. After dinner, I started clearing the plates. No one stopped me. No one offered to help. That told me everything I needed to know. When I brought the last dish to the sink, Dad came over. You know, your mother worries about you. You don't call much. I looked at him. Neither does she. He looked away, pretending to straighten his sleeves. You've changed. So have you, I said, but not in the way you think. I dried my hands, walked back to the table, and stood behind my old chair, the one they'd given away to someone else just days ago. I pulled it out, placed it properly at the table, and sat down. No one said a word. Claire stared, almost offended. Mom's lips parted, but she couldn't form a sentence. I'm not staying, I said finally. Don't worry, I'll leave tomorrow, but tonight I'll sit where I belong, one last time. No one challenged me. The house felt different in that moment. Not warmer, not colder, just honest. Every wall, every ornament seemed to breathe again, like it had been holding its breath all week. After a long silence, Mom whispered, You didn't have to make a scene. I smiled. I didn't. You did that when you forgot who I was. Then I stood, picked up my coat, and said, You'll remember this dinner. Maybe not today, but someday. As I reached the door, I paused and looked back. The table shimmered under the soft glow of Christmas lights, and for the first time, it looked exactly how it was, full, but not whole. Behind me, no one followed. I stepped outside, letting the cold sting my face awake. Somewhere between the frost and my breath, I realized something important. Sometimes, the only way to find peace is to stop sitting at tables where love has gone missing. The next morning, the house was quiet, the kind of quiet that follows a storm but carries its echo. Sunlight crept through the blinds, falling across the table like a spotlight on a stage that had lost its actors. Empty wine glasses, half-eaten pie, and a folded napkin still shaped like the one I'd left behind. I stood there for a while, memorizing it. Not for nostalgia, but for closure. Upstairs, I could hear faint footsteps. Mum moving softly, pretending not to know I was awake. She didn't want another confrontation. I didn't either. But there was something I had to leave behind. I packed my things slowly. The same duffel bag I'd brought 3 years ago when I left for work, filled with hope, full of reasons to return. This time it felt heavier, though I'd packed less. Maybe because I was carrying truth this time. When I came downstairs, Mom was sitting by the fireplace, her robe wrapped tight, eyes red. "You're leaving already?" she asked, voice small. "I have to," I said. "Work starts Monday." She nodded, pretending to understand. "You could stay another day. Claire's thinking of taking pictures by the tree." I smiled gently. "You have plenty of pictures, Mom." Her lips pressed together. The silence stretched until it broke. "Last night was unnecessary. You embarrassed your sister." I looked at her, really looked. "No, Mom, I reminded her what family looks like when it's uncomfortable." She exhaled sharply. "You always have to turn things into lessons." "Maybe," I said, "but someone has to before the meaning gets lost." I reached into my jacket pocket and handed her an envelope. "If you read anything today, read this." Her eyes flickered with confusion, but I didn't wait for questions. I turned toward the door. Before stepping outside, I glanced back one last time. The tree blinked lazily, ornaments shifting with the draft. Beneath it lay gifts wrapped in red, not one with my name. Outside, the cold bit deep. I walked to the car, started the engine, and watched the frost melt off the windshield. The world looked cleaner through the clearing glass, almost forgiving. I didn't look back again. Later that evening, after I'd gone, Mum sat by the fire with the envelope still in her hand. Claire and her fiancé were out, and Dad was upstairs, pretending to fix the radio. She opened it slowly. Inside was a letter, my handwriting steady and deliberate. "Mom, Dad, I didn't come home to fight. I came home to remember what I'd been missing. Turns out what I missed wasn't here anymore. You raised me to believe family is the one place where you don't need to earn your seat. But somewhere along the way, that changed. Maybe because I wasn't loud enough. Maybe because I stopped fitting the picture you wanted to show the world. I'm not angry. I just wish you'd told me when love became conditional. You taught me to work hard, to keep promises, to show up. I did all of that, and for you, for this house. But I can't keep showing up where I'm unseen. So I'm giving you space to be the family you want to be, and I'll be the peace you let go of. If you ever wonder why the house feels colder, check which chair is empty. Love doesn't fade, it just needs to be seen." Mom read it twice. The first time with anger, the second with tears she didn't expect. When Dad came downstairs, she didn't speak at first. She just handed him the letter. He read in silence, his eyes narrowing, then softening as he reached the end. "He's right," he whispered. Mum shook her head, whispering, "I didn't mean to—" "I know," Dad said quietly. "We just stopped seeing him." They sat there together for a long while. No music, no chatter. Just the soft ticking of the clock and the echo of what they'd lost. When Claire and her fiancé returned, Mum didn't greet them. She just looked at her daughter and said, "We need to talk." Claire frowned. "About what?" "About your brother," Mom said, "and what we've done." That night the tree lights stayed off. The house didn't feel festive anymore. It felt real, raw, stripped of decoration. 2 weeks later I got a message, just one line from Mom. "The table feels wrong without you." I didn't reply, not out of spite, but because some things don't need words to heal. Time will either build bridges or burn the rest. I looked around my small apartment. Quiet, peaceful, honest. I set the photo I'd taken from the house on my shelf. The one with all of us before things changed. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like a missing piece. I felt whole. Sometimes leaving isn't about walking away. It's about choosing yourself even when no one else does. Grandpa Harry's voice came in soft, almost like a lullaby breaking through a winter breeze. "You see, family isn't about blood," he said, his tone low and reflective. "It's about belonging. And sometimes the people who share your last name forget the weight of that word." The camera would linger on the empty chair at the Christmas table, lights flickering across untouched plates, the kind of silence that only comes when the truth has finally spoken. Weeks had passed since I left. January slipped in quietly, stealing away the last signs of Christmas. At the shop I worked later than usual, fixing engines and humming along to the radio. Life wasn't perfect, but it was mine again. I'd stopped checking my phone for messages. I'd stopped waiting for apologies that might never come, and strangely it didn't hurt anymore. There was a calm that came with acceptance, not the kind that gives up, but the kind that finally understands what cannot be changed. Sometimes losing your place at one table gives you the chance to build another. One evening, as I was closing up, I saw a familiar car pull into the lot, my dad's old sedan. For a moment my breath caught. The window rolled down and there he was, looking older than I remembered. "Hey, son," he said softly. "Thought I'd get the oil changed." I nodded, pretending not to read the weight behind his words. "Sure, pull her in." He parked, stepped out and handed me the keys. His hands shook slightly, not from cold but from everything left unsaid. We stood in silence for a moment before he spoke again. "Your mother wanted to come," he said, "but she didn't know if you'd want that." "I would have," I said quietly, "but maybe not today." He nodded. "Fair." As I worked under the hood, he looked around the shop. "You've done good here," he said. "Didn't realize how much you built on your own." I tightened a bolt, not looking up. Neither did I. When I finally stood, wiping my hands, he said, "We read your letter again more than once. Your mom cried. Claire, she hasn't said much, but I can tell it hit her too." I waited. He sighed. "We forgot what mattered. Got too busy trying to look like a perfect family and stopped being one. That's on us." For a moment, I didn't know what to say. I wasn't used to honesty from him, not the real kind anyway. "I'm not angry anymore, Dad," I said. "I just wanted you to see it, to really see it." He nodded slowly. "We see it now." The engine purred as I finished the job. He smiled, that quiet father's smile that used to mean, "I'm proud of you," even if the words never came out. "How much do I owe you?" he asked. "Consider it family discount," I said, half smiling. He chuckled softly. "Guess I've got to earn that title again." I handed him the receipt. One oil change down, a few more to go. He laughed, then paused before walking out. "Your seat's still there, you know, whenever you want it." I nodded but didn't promise. Some things aren't about going back, they're about growing past. When he left, I stood by the open garage door, watching the tail lights fade into the dusk. The cold air carried a strange peace, like the world was finally in balance again. Grandpa Harry's voice returned, carrying the weight of every lesson earned the hard way. "Sometimes life will test who remembers you when you're gone," he said. "It'll show you who claps when you win and who forgets when you don't. But the real victory isn't proving them wrong. It's choosing peace over pride." The scene would fade to a quiet living room, the old house weeks later. The family sitting together again, smaller somehow, but humbler. The photo I'd placed on the table still there, a silent reminder. Mum would glance at it often now, as if afraid it might disappear again. Claire would visit less, speak softer. Dad would keep my letter folded in his wallet. They'd remember me, not out of guilt but out of growth. And somewhere in that same city, I'd sit by a different table, surrounded by people who made room without asking whose turn it was to belong. Because that's what family is, not the people who gave you a name, but the ones who let you keep it without asking you to shrink. Grandpa Harry's voice softened for the final line. "So if you ever find your chair taken, your name missing, your worth questioned, don't beg for a seat, build your own table, and you'll be surprised who shows up when love has no conditions." The music would swell, gentle, bittersweet. A single snowflake drifts past the window, the lights dim around the empty chair, now glowing faintly under the tree. And as the credits roll, his voice fades out with one final truth. Sometimes being left out is the universe's way of saying, "You were never meant to fit there anyway."